Hare Krishna. So as Prabhuji mentioned, today is the most auspicious day of Bahulashtami, which is celebrated as the appearance day of Radha Kunda. Unfortunately, because of COVID, unprecedented times, probably most of us ideally would have been in Vrindavan this year, taking bath in Radha Kund, but we take this as Krishna's desire, as Radharani's desire. If not physically, at least virtually, we can sit wherever we are, whether we are in New Jersey or we are in Seattle or whichever part of the world we are in, we can sit and discuss the glories of Srimati Radharani and her Kund, which is not different from actually taking bath in her Kund. Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 10th canto, there is a very beautiful verse that comes up. Canto 10, chapter 52, text 20. In the episode of Rukmini, Shukadev Goswami quotes a very beautiful verse. He describes what are the benefits of hearing Hari Katha. You see, till the time we don't know what we are going to get out of hearing, till that time we may or may not appreciate what is being presented. Like, for example, those who are spiritually greedy would probably resonate to my thought that when we are reading Ashtakams or any prayers, the first thing that we do is we turn to the last page and see what the Falashruti is, what is the fruit. And we see what is the fruit? Putravan dhanavan loke dirga ayu upajayate. Oh, by reading this Ashtakam, dhanavan, we become very wealthy. Putravan, we have a child. Dirga ayu, we have a long life. So when we read that this is the fruit by reading the Ashtakam, our faith and eagerness to chant it increases. Similarly, dear devotees, Shukadev Goswami in the 10th canto, chapter 52, text 20, he gives 3 benefits of hearing Harikatha. What is it in it that will help me? What will I get by hearing this narration? So Shukadev Goswami says, Brahman Krishna Katha Punya Madhvilo Kamalapaha Konu Tripyeta Shrunvanam Shrutagya Nityanutanaha. Srila Shukadev Goswami says, Brahman Krishna Katha Punya. The first quality is Punya. It means it is pure. Krishna Katha is always pure. And anyone who comes in this current of Hari Katha, they also become pure. There is absolutely no doubt about this. But if the intention is not to get purified, then that purification may take time. For example, Dhritarashtra Maharaj. Dhritarashtra Maharaj was not hearing the Bhagavad Gita with the intention of being purified. He had ulterior motives. His main reason why he was hearing was whether his children, the Kauravas, whether they were victorious or not. So does that mean Dhritarashtra Maharaj was not purified? Well, no. Dhritarashtra Maharaj was purified, but that purification took long time because his intention was not to get purified. Similarly, dear devotees, from Gaur Leela, Keshav Kashmiri. Keshav Kashmiri knew all the Shastras left, right, center. He had all the verses in the tip of his tongue. But Keshav Kashmiri's intention of studying the Shastra was not for his purification. He got humility after humiliation. When Nimai Pandit humiliated him, that's when he got humility. And that's when later Kaviraj Goswami describes he got purification. So the point I'm making is, if the intention is not for purification, then the Harikatha that we hear will take time. But if the intention is sincere and pure, then Harikatha will act really fast. For example, if there are 3 cups of dal that has spilled to the ground. Now, what do we do, dear devotees? If dal has fallen to the ground, we take a clean cloth. We take a clean cloth so that we can clean the dirt that has fallen to the floor. But the condition, the prerequisite is we have to take a cloth that is completely clean. We don't take a dirty cloth to clean the dirty floor. But when we take a clean cloth and clean the floor, what happens is the floor becomes clean, but the cloth becomes dirty. But dear devotees, Harikatha doesn't work this way. Harikatha doesn't clear the contaminations of the heart and become dirty itself. Harikatha is like the sun. What is the characteristic of the sun? Srila Prabhupada many times in his lecture would make this point. If there is water and urine that is there on the ground, in the road, the sun doesn't distinguish, oh, this is water, oh, this is urine. The sun purifies the water and the urine equally, so much so that the place becomes completely clean, it becomes completely fragrant, and dear devotees, the contamination of the urine or the water is not stuck on to the sun. Dear devotees, if a material sun can have this quality of purifying a place at the same time remaining pure in itself, what to speak of Srimad Bhagavatam? Krishna swadhama upagate dharma jnana vidhi saha kalau nashta drisham esha purana arka dhunoditaha. Shukadev Goswami in the first canto, third chapter, he says this Srimad Bhagavatam is the spiritual sun which rose after Krishna departed from this world. So if a material sun can have this qualification, what to speak of the spiritual sun, Srimad Bhagavatam? So Shukadev Goswami says this is the first quality. It is punya. It is always pure. Second, madhvi. Harikatha is very sweet. Madhvi means madhu. It is very sweet. Dear devotees, we see in this world the medicines to clear deha rog. When there is some problem in the body, the medicines to clear or treat the problems of this body is very bitter. So then what to speak of the disease of bhava rog, the disease of repeated birth and death? That medicine has to be so damn bitter. But Shukadev Goswami says, no, Harikatha is not bitter, but it is sweet. It is very sweet. And he uses the phrase madhvi. It is madhu, very sweet. So this is the second characteristic, dear devotees. First is Harikatha is very pure. It is punya. It clears the contamination of the heart. And second, it is very sweet. And third, lokamalapaha. We see some time back, a month ago, we celebrated the most auspicious month of Purushottam Mass. And one of the famous songs that we all sang throughout the world was Chaurashtakam. And in that, Bilva Mangala Thakur very sarcastically glorifies Krishna. And one of the satires that Bilva Mangala Thakur uses, he says, Aneka janmar jitapapa chauram chauragraganyam purusham namami. He says, my dear Lord, the only thing I collected lifetime after lifetime, lifetime after lifetime is a mountain of sins. But you are such a big thief. You stole even that away. What a big thief you are. So very sarcastically, he glorifies the Supreme Lord. So when the Lord comes as Sri Krishna, as Shyama Sundar, he steals the complexion from the cloud. When he comes as Ramachandra, he steals the complexion from the grass. And dear devotees, where are people running in between the cloud and the grass? It is gold. So Bilva Mangala Thakur is saying, my dear Lord, you as Gauranga Mahaprabhu, you have even captured the complexion of gold. So you have actually conquered all the three yugas, Treta, Dwapar, and Kali. And Bilva Mangala Thakur very beautifully in his work, he says, my dear Lord, you accept much more than what the devotees can offer. For example, dear devotees, Bali Maharaj. Bali Maharaj gave his head, but what did Vamandev do? He accepted his whole body. So Bilva Mangala Thakur is making this point that, my dear Lord, you accept much more than what everyone can offer. Just like as Krishna, you stole the complexion from clouds. Just like Ramachandra, you stole the complexion from grass. Just like Gauranga Mahaprabhu, you stole the complexion from gold. Similarly, Shukadev Goswami says, this Harikatha is ever ready to kidnap, is ever ready to steal the sins from our heart. Lokamalapaha. Isn't it beautiful, devotees? Shukadev Goswami is giving three qualities. First, he says it is punya, it is very pure. Second, it is madhvi, very sweet. And third quality he gives is lokamalapaha. Harikatha is always ready to kidnap the sins that we accumulate. So it's already 15 minutes and we're building this introduction, dear devotees, only so that we know what we are going to get by discussing. If we do not know what the benefits are, then we may or may not appreciate this discussion. So with this benchmark that we have set as to what Shukadeva Goswami in the 10th canto says, we now begin our discussion. Srila Rupa Goswami, in his Nectar of Instruction, for those who have done Bhakti Shastri, will be very much aware. Srila Rupa Goswami in Upadeshamrit, in Nectar of Instruction, in the 9th verse, he gives a very beautiful hierarchy. He says, Vaikuntha janito vara madhupuri tatrapi rasotsava vrindaranyamudara pani ramana tatrapi govardhana Radha Kunda mihapi gokulapate premamrita plavanat kuryad asya virajito giritate sevan viveki naka. Rupa Goswami is very beautifully in the 9th verse is giving a hierarchy. What is Rupa Goswami saying? Rupa Goswami is saying greater than Vaikuntha is Mathura of this world. Now, dear devotees, this is a very big statement. Rupa Goswami is saying greater than Vaikuntha is Mathura. Why? Because Vishnu, he doesn't appear in Vaikuntha. He is always eternal. There is no appearance and disappearance of the Supreme Lord in Vaikuntha. But when Krishna comes down, he appears in Mathura. He appears to Devaki and Vasudeva in the jail. And Rupa Goswami says, because the Lord appears, Mathura is greater than that Vaikuntha. But he says, there is something greater than even Mathura. Which is that place? He says Vrindavan. He says Vrindavan is even greater than Mathura. Why? Because when Krishna appeared in Mathura, he did not perform any pastimes. Immediately he was taken. The same night he was taken to Vrindavan. Second, dear devotees, Krishna performs his rasa dance, his rasa leela in Vrindavan. So naturally Vrindavan becomes superior to Mathura. And third and very interesting point, dear devotees, when Krishna was in Vrindavan, he would walk bare feet. He would not wear any shoes and slippers, but he would walk bare feet in Braj. So now sometimes this question can be raised. Oh, what is so great about it? Even Ramchandra and Chitrakoot walked barefoot. So what is so great about Krishna walking barefoot? But dear devotees, the counter argument for that is Ramchandra did not eat the dust of Chitrakoot. But our Sri Krishna, like a small baby, cross-legged, ate the dust of Vrindavan, which easily proves the supremacy of Vrindavan over Mathura. So Rupa Goswami is saying greater than Vaikuntha is Mathura, greater than Mathura is Braj Dham. But he says, no, there is something greater than Vrindavan. And that place is Giriraj Govardhan. Why? Because when we know in the Govardhan pastime, when Indra was throwing the thunderbolt and when there was torrential rains, the life of all the Brajavasis were at stake. But at that time, if there was anyone who protected the Brajavasis, including Krishna, it was Giriraj Govardhan. Giriraj Govardhan sacrificed his own life to protect the Brajavasis. And dear devotees, it is for this reason, Srimati Radharani in the 10th canto, in the section of Venu Geet, she says, Hantaya Madruravala Haridasavarya. O Giriraj, you are the best among servants of the Lord. Not just this, dear devotees. When Krishna was small and when he would have his Sakhya pastimes, our acharyas say for more than 12 hours a day, Krishna was in Govardhan. He would play hide and seek with his friends. He would slide down from Giriraj. Giriraj would offer cooling water. He would offer fruits. He would offer caves. So Giriraj serves the Lord in all possible manners. And for this reason, dear devotees, our Rupa Goswami says, greater than Vaikuntha is Mathura, greater than Mathura is Braj Dham, greater than Braj Dham is Govardhan. But he says, if there is anything that is the topmost, that is the crest jewel, that is the greatest place in the cosmic manifestation, Srila Rupa Goswami says that has to be Radha Kund. Why? Because Rupa Goswami says Radha Kund is the liquefied form of Srimati Radharani. Radha Kund is absolute. Just like we have Srimati Radharani, if Radharani has to be seen in a liquefied form, it is Srimati Radharani. It is Sri Radha Kund. And Radha and Krishna have very intimate pastimes in Radha Kund. And it is for this reason, Rupa Goswami says Radha Kund is the highest place in this cosmic manifestation. So a very beautiful hierarchy is given by Srila Rupa Goswami himself to establish this point that if there is any place that is the greatest, it is Radha Kund. So dear devotees, once our Shyam Sundar Shri Krishna in Golok Vrindavan, our Shyam Sundar Shri Krishna was sitting with Srimati Radharani in the groves of Vrindavan. And it so happened that by associating with Radharani, our Krishna was so intoxicated. He was so intoxicated that he just went inside the forest. He went inside the forest and he assumed the mood of Srimati Radharani. And now in the mood of Radharani, he was chanting Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. And now because Krishna in the mood of Radharani was chanting Krishna, here Radharani was separated from Sri Krishna. She was having Vipralamba, she was separated. So now naturally Radharani in the mood of Krishna started chanting Radhe, Radhe, Radhe. And now the Sakhis, the gopis who were there near Srimati Radharani, they were seeing. And they tried to pacify Srimati Radharani, but they couldn't do anything. They tried their level best, but they couldn't do anything. So finally, they went to the forest and beseeched Krishna and said, my dear Krishna, if there is anyone who can pacify Srimati Radharani, it is you. So then Krishna, he came to Srimati Radharani. And when Krishna met Srimati Radharani, and when Radharani met Sri Krishna, there was a festival of eyes. As Sri Gaur Govinda Maharaj would say, it was Netrotsav. It was a festival of union. It was a festival of the eyes. And just looking at each other, Krishna began weeping so much. And likewise, Radharani began weeping so much. And Radharani and Krishna were crying and crying and crying, and there were incessant tears that were flowing. And dear devotees, what happened was Krishna's tears gave rise to Shyam Kund, and Radharani's tears gave rise to Radha Kund. And this was the first time, this was the origin, this was the root of the appearance of Radha Kund and Shyam Kund in the spiritual world, dear devotees. Radha Kund and Shyam Kund in the spiritual world, in Golok Dham, was formed by the incessant tears of Vipralamba, tears of separation by Srimati Radharani and Sri Krishna. So this only, dear devotees, illustrates one point, that the Brajavasis, headed by Srimati Radharani, they love Krishna so much. They dearly love Krishna. And this is very apparent because we see, dear devotees, in Mathura, when Krishna went to Mathura, when he was invited by Kamsa Maharaj, when Krishna entered Mathura, all the Mathuravasis, they were seeing Krishna. They saw Balaram and they were so scared because all of them were seeing Krishna and Balaram in the mood of Vatsalya, in the mood of parental. So when they saw Krishna and Balaram, they were so scared and they were thinking to themselves, what Kamsa has done is not right. Krishna and Balaram are only 11 years. And here Kamsa has placed a mad elephant in the form of Kuvalaya Peed. And after that, there is Chanur and Mushtik, who are almost like 6-pack and 8-pack. And then you have Kamsa. So the Mathuravasis were thinking, what Kamsa has done is not right. Out of parental affection, they were feeling for Krishna. But, dear devotees, we see when Krishna held the hair of Kamsa and dragged and punched him to death, what happened was the Vatsalya that was there, the motherly affection of the Mathuravasis that was present, it completely shattered. The strings of Vatsalya Prem completely broke down because now they saw Bhagavan smashing and punching Kamsa to death. So they understood that a 11-year-old son cannot do this. He has to be Bhagavan. And immediately our acharyas say all of them fell at their feet looking at Krishna. They were now seeing Krishna as Bhagavan. So the point is, immediately their Vatsalya came down, it broke, and it came down to Dasyaras. Second example, dear devotees, we find Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita. In the 11th chapter, when Krishna is showing the Virat Roop, at that time Arjuna, he says, Sakheti matva prasabamya duktam, He Krishna he Yadava he Sakheti, Ajanata Mahimanam tavedam, Maya pramadat pranayena vapi, Yachavahasartam asatkritosi, Viharasaya sanabhojaneshu, Ekotyavyapya chutatat samaksham, Tachamaye tvam aham aprameya. Chapter 11, text 41-42 Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna is telling Krishna that, my dear Lord, all the while I thought that you are my friend. And very casually I would address you as, Hey Krishna, Hey Yadhav, Hey Sakha, Ajanata Mahimanam Tavedam. My dear Lord, I didn't know that you are Bhagavan. I made such a big mistake. I treated you as my friend, but seems like you are Bhagavan. And so many times I mocked, I made fun of you. My dear Lord, takshamaye tvam aham prameya. I fall at your feet. Please grant me forgiveness. So dear devotees, again the same point. Till now, till the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna was seeing Krishna in the mood of Sakhiras. But the moment Krishna showed his universal form, Arjuna's friendship broke and he became in the mood of Dasyaras. But dear devotees, now let's come to Vrindavan. In Vrindavan, it doesn't work this way. The first example, in the pastime of the forest fire. So there were two pastimes of forest fire. One of them was at Bandirvat. And our acharyas very beautifully say that when the friends and the cows and calves were stuck in the forest fire, in the middle of the forest fire, they called out to Krishna. And when Krishna came, he assessed the whole situation. He told his friends to close their eyes. And the friends closed their eyes. And the acharyas comment that why did Krishna ask his friends to close their eyes? Because Krishna was thinking to himself, already once I ate dirt and they complained to Mother Yashoda. If they see me drink fire, they are going to complain to Mother Yashoda and Mother Yashoda is going to reprimand me. So that they don't see me again drink fire, Krishna asked his friends to close their eyes. So now, when the friends had closed their eyes, Krishna swallowed the whole forest fire. And then when the friends opened their eyes, they knew that Krishna swallowed the forest fire. But their love for Krishna didn't fall, dear devotees. Unlike the Mathuravasis or Arjuna, the friends, their love for Sri Krishna did not fall even after witnessing Krishna's godly abilities. This is first example. Second, again in the pastime of Krishna killing Kamsa, when Krishna smashed and punched Kamsa to death, our acharyas describe at that time Sridham Sakha, he came there. And Sridham Sakha came and he stood and he looked at the whole situation. And he looked at Krishna and he said, you cannot be my Krishna. My Krishna is not so strong. So Krishna looked and said, Sridham, I am your Krishna. Sridham said, no, my Krishna is not so strong. I defeat him every day in punching. He is not so strong. He cannot defeat Kamsa. You cannot be Krishna. Krishna said, no, I am Krishna. How do I prove it to you? Sridham Sakha said, no, I don't believe you. You cannot be Krishna. And then Sridham Sakha said, if you are Krishna, let us have a battle right here, right now itself. And let's see who wins. So Krishna says, okay, theek, we will fight. And our acharyas say, near the dead body of Kamsa, Sridham and Krishna start wrestling. They start punching each other. So much so that, dear devotees, Sridham punches and defeats Krishna. And he says, confirm, you are my Krishna. Because I defeated you in the battle. You cannot be. So there the Acharyas, they comment by saying the love of the Brajavasis, the love of the friends of Krishna is so deep that Sridham Sakha has seen Krishna drag Kamsa to death, but he's still convinced that Krishna is not God. He's still convinced that he's more powerful than Krishna. This is the difference, dear devotees. The love of the Vrajavasis does not shake, it does not shatter. Irrespective of how much ever Krishna shows his godly abilities, their love does not shatter. So there are two interesting points from this, dear devotees. First, the Brajavasis are convinced Krishna is not God. And second, their love for Sri Krishna never decreases. In fact, their love only increases for Krishna. Irrespective of whether Krishna is God or not, their love for Krishna only keeps on increasing and increasing and increasing. So, our Acharyas now very beautifully comment. Shukadev Goswami, Canto 10, Chapter 36, he comments that Kamsa, what he decided was, he decided to send Aristhasur now to Vrindavan. And at that time, Krishna was getting ready for his rasa dance. Krishna was getting ready. The Braja Gopis were there, Radharani was there, and Krishna was getting ready for his Rasa Leela. And at that time, dear devotees, Kamsa, he sent Aristhasur. And now Aristhasur was a bull, which means a male cow. And sending Aristhasur, dear devotees, was a very strategic plan. Kamsa was very smart. He sent Aristhasur on purpose. Why? Because Kamsa knew that Krishna loves the cows very much. Krishna is called as Gopal. So he knew that because of Krishna's affinity towards the cows, because of Krishna's love towards the cows, Krishna will not harm Aristhasur because he's a male cow. So Kamsa basically was taking an advantage. He was pressing the weak point of Krishna, and he was convinced that Krishna will not kill Aristhasur because he's a male cow. And dear devotees, this point is made multiple times. There was once a cow whose name was Bahula. And this Bahula cow was once grazing. It was grazing and eating some grass. And at that time, from a distance, a tiger saw this Bahula cow. So when the tiger saw this Bahula cow, he ran towards Bahula. And what did the tiger say? Maha Prasade Govinde. The tiger was very happy because he saw Bahula, he saw a cow. So he was very excited. So when Bahula saw this tiger, the cow, it said that, oh tiger, I will give my life to you, don't worry. But my calf is very hungry. So if you allow me, I will go and give some milk to my calf, and then I will again come back. So the tiger, he said, okay, no problem, I'll wait for you. So Bahula, the cow, she went and she fed milk to her calf. And at that time, she narrated this whole incident to the master. So when the Brahmana, he heard this, he thought to himself, I am the master. If there is someone who should sacrifice his life, it should be me and not the Bahula cow. So he told Bahula that if there is someone who will go to the tiger, it is me. I will sacrifice my life. So when the master said this, immediately the calf said, no, I will go. My dear Brahmana, you don't go. I will sacrifice my life. When the Bahula cow heard this, the cow said, no one will go. I will go to the tiger. So what happened was, at the end, all three of them ended up going to the tiger. And when they went to the tiger saw all three of them. And this was like a chappan bhog, dear devotees. This was like a feast for the tiger because he asked for one cow. And at the end, he got one calf and one Brahmana also. So the tiger was jubilant. He was excited. But at that time, Sri Krishna arrived at that scene. And it is said Krishna arrived with the Sudarshan Chakra. And Krishna he besieged the tiger that, oh tiger, if you spare the life of Bahula, if you spare her life, then I guarantee that you will get everlasting fame. People for the rest of eternity will always remember you, O tiger, if you spare the life of Bahula. So when the tiger heard this, the tiger agreed to Krishna's proposition, and the tiger left Bahula. And dear devotees, because the life of Bahula was saved in that forest by Krishna, that forest was called as Bahula Van. Because in Sanskrit, Van means forest, and Bahula was the name of the cow. So Bahula was protected in that one. That's why it was called as Bahula Van. So now Kamsa knew that Krishna loved the cows very much and he would not cause any harm to the cows. So on purpose, he sent Arishtasur to Vrindavan. And in Sanskrit, dear devotees, a bull is also called as Vrishabha. So that is why we see Arishtasur was also called as Vrishabhasur. And we see this name in the Gopi Geet. In the third verse of the Gopi Geet, the gopis are addressing Arishtasur as Vrishabhasur. They call him Vrishabha. The gopis say, Visha Jalapyaya Vyalar Varashamarudha Vaidhyutanala Vrishabhayatmaja Vishwato Bhayat Rishabhate Bhayam Rakshita Muho. So there, dear devotees, we find the gopis are addressing Arishtasur as Vrishabha or Vrishabhasur, which means a male cow, a bull. So now when Arishtasur entered Braj Dham, Vishwanath Chakravarti comments by saying it was night time. It was the night time when the bull entered and Krishna was getting ready for his rasa dance. So when the gopis headed by Radharani, when they saw this, they immediately embraced the tamal tree. Because we know tamal tree represents Krishna. So the gopis embraced the tamal tree and said, Krishna, 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 protect us. There is a very dangerous bull that has come. Krishna, please protect us. So Krishna looked at Arishtasur. And our acharyas say, Arishtasur was huge. He was gigantic. So much so that his hump, dear devotees, was almost touching the clouds. The clouds mistook it for some mountain. It was so huge. His eyes were burning in anger. His horns were pointed towards Krishna. And with his feet, he was tapping the ground very heavily. At that point, Shukadev Goswami says that looking at the gigantic form of Arishtasur, some female cows, some cows and some mothers in the neighboring village, they even had miscarriage just by looking at the gigantic form of Arishtasur. And now the gopis and Radharani were holding on to Krishna. They wanted Krishna to protect them. At that time when Arishtasur was all set, when he was charging towards Sri Krishna, Shukadev Goswami, dear devotees, very beautifully says, Krishna was not at all afraid. Krishna, in fact, was keeping his hand over Subal, and Krishna was laughing and chuckling and giggling. He was looking at Arishtasur and cracking jokes. And this infuriated Arishtasur even more. Looking at Krishna, making fun of him, looking at Krishna, making jokes about him, Arishtasur became very angry. So with all his strength, Arishtasur charged towards Sri Krishna. And devotees, when Arishtasur charged towards Sri Krishna, Krishna very easily, very naturally, without shedding any sweat, Krishna held his horns and threw him 18 steps behind. Shukadev Goswami gives exact details. He says Arishtasur was sent 18 steps behind. And when Krishna threw Arishtasur, this made Arishtasur very angry. He was passing urine, he was passing stool, and he was very angry at Krishna. So now part 2, he again charged at Krishna. And this time when he charged at Krishna, Krishna literally uprooted his horns, dear devotees, and kicked and kicked and kicked and kicked his life air out of him. Krishna kicked him to death. And Arishtasur tried everything possible. He was pleading to Krishna, Krishna, save me, I'm sorry I came. But Krishna kicked and took the life out. And Arishtasur was down to the ground, dead completely. And when Arishtasur was killed, Krishna was now ready. He looked at the Braja Gopis and said, okay, it is time again for the rasa dance. We stopped it in between because of Arishtasur, but now Arishta is killed. So now let us again begin the rasa dance. But when Krishna thought of beginning the rasa dance, dear devotees, the gopis headed by Radharani, they said, no, Krishna, you're impure. You just killed a male cow, that is bull. You're impure. And we don't want to have any connection with someone who's impure. So first you have to get purified and then you can dance with us. So when Krishna heard this, Krishna said, you asked for shelter. You told me to protect you from Arishtasur. And now that I protected you from Arishtasur, you are saying I have done an offense. I am impure, but I actually protected you. The gopi said, Krishna, we don't know all those things. You have killed a male cow. You have killed a bull, which means you're impure and you have to get yourself purified. So Krishna said, okay, what am I supposed to do? So here we see, dear devotees, that they have just now witnessed Krishna punching and smashing and kicking Arishtasur to death, but still their love has not decreased. Unlike Mathuravasis or Arjuna, as we discussed, the love of the gopis have not decreased. The love of Srimati Radharani has not decreased absolutely, even after witnessing Krishna kicking Arishtasur to death. This is the difference, dear devotees, between the Brajavasis and the Mathuravasis, the Dwarakavasis, or anyone else outside of Vrindavan. So they command, they are authoritative. They tell Krishna that you have to get purified. So Krishna says, okay, what am I supposed to do? How should I get myself purified? And Radharani says, well, if you want to get purified, you have to take bath in all the holy rivers. If you take bath in all the holy rivers, we will consider that you are pure. So when Krishna hears this, Krishna says, take bath in all the holy rivers? Why should I go to all the holy rivers? The holy rivers will come to me. And saying this, Krishna with his feet, he tapped on the ground. And the moment Krishna tapped with his heel, when he tapped on the ground, all the holy rivers, Ganga, Saraswati, Kaveri, all the rivers, they came and they prostrated themselves at the lotus feet of Krishna. And they said, my dear Krishna, how can we serve you? And Krishna said, if you can kindly form a kund here, and that will be a great service for me. So all the waters that came from different places, they formed a kund, and Krishna very nicely took his bath in that kund. And that kund, dear devotees, which was invoked by the Supreme Lord, and that kund where Krishna himself took bath, where Shyam himself took bath, is called as Shyam Kund. That was the origin of Shyam Kund. So now our Shyam Sundar has taken his bath at Shyam Kund, and when he comes out, he looks at the gopis, and Krishna says, when I killed Arishtasur, y'all looked at me. When I was impure, all of you looked at me, which means even y'all are impure, which means even y'all have to take a bath. Just like I took my bath, similarly, even you have to take your bath, O gopis. So when the gopis headed by Srimati Radharani, when they heard this, they said, okay, we will also take our bath. And with their bangles, they started digging to make a kund. The gopis headed by Radharani, with their bangles, they started digging. And here was our Krishna. He was standing and he was witnessing the whole scene. And at that time, what the gopis were doing is, a few set of gopis were digging with their bangles, while the other set of gopis had formed a chain. From Radha Kund till Mansi Ganga, they had formed a chain, and one gopi from Mansikanga was taking water, she would pass on to another gopi, that gopi would pass on to another gopi, and in that way they were filling Sri Radha Kund. So, dear devotees, during festivals, when we see that we form a chain to pass the prasad, where is the origin for that coming from? It is coming from this pastime, dear devotees, because the gopis did it with pots and pots of water from Mansi Ganga. They were taking it all the way to Radha Kund. So now Krishna was seeing this, and when Krishna saw this, Krishna said, well, if you want, you can take water from my kund. I mean, you don't have to do so much endeavor to get it all the way from Mansi Ganga. If you want, you can take waters from my kund. And when Radharani heard this, she said, nothing doing, Krishna. We will form our own kund. We will get the own water. We will dig the kund and we will take bath in that kund. We will make sure that we are not taking anything from you, Krishna. So when Krishna heard this, Krishna didn't have any answer. But at that time, the rivers who had helped Krishna purify himself, they personified and came in front of Radharani. And when they came in front of Radharani, dear devotees, they fell at the feet of Radharani and said, my dear Radharani, we want to offer our service to you. We want to serve your lotus feet. We know you're very kind-hearted. We know you're very merciful. Kindly accept this service that we want to offer. And when Radharani heard this, Radharani is very merciful. When Srimati Radharani heard this, she agreed. And when Radharani agreed, all the waters from Sham Kund, they gushed their way to Radha Kund. And dear devotees, this is the way, this is how Sri Radha Kund was formed in this world. The waters of Sham Kund gushed their way. They broke all the barriers and they filled the kund which the gopis had dug with their bangles. And this is how, dear devotees, Radha Kund was formed in this world. Srimati Radharani, along with the Braja gopis, they took their bath in Radha Kund and they came out. And similarly, Krishna took his bath in Sham Kund and he came out. And that kund where Sham Sundar takes his bath is Sham Kund, and that kund where Radharani took her bath is called as Radha Kund, dear devotees. This is how Shukadev Goswami and all our predecessor Acharya, they beautifully glorify the appearance of Radha Kund and Sham Kund. But now there is a small problem, dear devotees. When did this pastime occur? This pastime occurred 5,500 years back in Dwapar. And when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in the year of 1515, which means 515 years ago, when Shachinandan Gauranga Mahaprabhu came to Vrindavan, he looked around and, dear devotees, there was no Radha Kund. Radha Kund had become aprakat. It had become invisible to the naked eye. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was asking everyone, where is Radha Kund? Radha Kund kothaai? Where is Radha Kund? And the Brajavasis were scratching their head. They were thinking to themselves, Radha Kund? We have not heard any Radha Kund. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was Bhagavan himself, he understood that Radha Kund and Sham Kund has become aprakat. It has become lost to the naked eye. Kaviraj Goswami very beautifully describes. He says, Kalena Vrindavana Kelivartam Lupte Titam Khyapaitum Vishishya Kripamritena Abhisheshya Devas Tatraiva Rupam Cha Sanatanam Cha. This comes from Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela. Kaviraj Goswami saying, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to Vrindavan and when he came to the place of Radha Kund, it had become lupta. Lupteti tam khyapaitum vishishya. This place of Radha Kund, what to speak of Radha Kund, dear devotees, all the pastime places in Vrindavan had become lupta. They had become lost to the naked eye. So just as a side point, that we know Brahmaji, he always travels in a swan. And swan in Sanskrit is called as a hamsa. We say Paramhamsa. which means a great swan. So Brahmaji always travels in a swan. But because that swan, which is used for traveling from one place to another, which is like the order carrier, which travels through air, because that has become lupta, it is called as lupta hansa. And dear devotees, that over a period of time in the German language has become Lufthansa. The origin is Lupta Hansa, which means the lost swan of Brahmaji, because a swan is used for traveling from one place to another. But because that has become Lupta over a period of time in the German language, that has become Lufthansa. But we see that origin is from our Vedic literature. So that was just as a side point. So Kaviraj Goswami here is using the same point of Lupta. Lupteti tam khyapaitum visheshya. Radha Kunda had become aprakat. So at that time, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he decided to empower all the 6 Goswamis. Rupa, Sanatan, Raghunath Bhatta, Jiva, Gopal Bhatta, and our Raghunath Das Goswami. If there was anyone, dear devotees, of the 6 Goswamis who had maximum association of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it was Srila Raghunath Das Goswami. Our Raghunath Das Goswami had 16 years of personal association with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which was the maximum. No associate, no Goswami had so much association with Gauranga Mahaprabhu like that of Raghunath Das. 16 years of personal association. And naturally, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left this world, it was a thunderbolt to his heart. He couldn't bear the separation. But the only solace to his heart was Swarup Damodar Goswami was still present in this planet. But dear devotees, when Swarup Damodar Goswami also left this planet, it was too much for Raghunath Das Goswami. He couldn't bear the separation because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had departed and now Swarup Damodar also had departed. So Raghunath Das Goswami, he thought to himself, he devised a plan of going on top of Giriraj and jumping from the top of Giriraj because he thought to himself, there is no life. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not there. Swarup Damodar is not there. Why should I even live? So Raghunath Das Goswami began walking towards Giriraj to jump from the top of Giriraj. But dear devotees, thankfully, he was intercepted by Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami. Rupa and Sanatan met Raghunath Das and they asked him, hey Raghunath, where are you going? And Raghunath Das Goswami said the whole thing. He said how he wanted to commit. He wanted to give up his life. He wanted to end his life because Chaitanya and Swarup Damodar was not present. When Rupa and Sanatan heard this, they said, oh Raghunath Das, you should not be doing this. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has some plan for you. So Raghunath Das Goswami said, what is the plan? I don't see any plan from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So at that time, Rupa Goswami said, oh Raghunath Das, has Chaitanya Mahaprabhu given you any gift? Has he gifted you anything? Raghunath Das Goswami thought and he said, yes. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has gifted me 2 things. So Rupa said, what is that? At that time, Raghunath Das, he said, Mahaprabhu gifted me a Govardhan Shila and he gifted me Gunjamala. So Rupa Goswami said, there it is. That is an instruction that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given you. So Raghunath Das Goswami thought, what is the instruction in this? I cannot see any instruction. So at that time, Rupa and Sanatan, they said, oh Raghunath Das, Mahaprabhu has given you a Giriraj, which means he wants you to live in Giriraj. And he has also given you a Gunjamala. And Gunjamala is dear to Srimati Radharani. So Rupa and Sanatan, they said, which is that place in Giriraj which is most dear to Srimati Radharani? And Raghunath Das said, Radha Kunda. Radha Kunda is that place which is most dear to Srimati Radharani. So Rupa and Sanatan said, exactly. That is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's desire for you. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Swarup Damodar, they want you to live on the banks of Radha Kunda. So then Raghunath Das, when he heard this, he said, if I stay in Radha Kunda, what am I supposed to do? How will I serve? What will be my daily activities? So at that time, the two transcendental brothers, Rupa and Sanatan, they said that because, O Raghunath, you have had the maximum association of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You have had 16 years of personal association. So on the banks of Radha Kund, you can speak Gaur Katha. You can speak the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and benefit the whole world. And when Raghunath Das Goswami heard this, he was excited. He said, yes, I can do this. I can speak about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because I have been with him. And Rupa and Sanatan, they rescued the life of Raghunath Das Goswami. And Raghunath Das Goswami, dear devotees, on the banks of Radha Kund, he would speak Gaur Katha. For 45 years, our Prayojan Acharya Raghunath Das Goswami stayed on the banks of Radha Kund. So all the credit for finding and excavating and renovating Radha Kund is given to Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, dear devotees, because Das Goswami lived maximum on the banks of Radha Kund. The steps that we find in Radha Kund, that was completely done by Srila Raghunath Das Goswami. And it's very beautiful. When our Raghunath Das Goswami was doing all the construction work, when he was doing all the tiles and all the steps, he finished Radha Kund. And when he was about to do Sham Kund, he had made plans to cut off a few trees so that a nice rectangle shape can be made for Sham Kund also. Because we see from top, when we see Radha Kund is rectangle in shape. So Raghunath Das Goswami had this desire that even Sham Kund should be exactly the similar. So he had told a few people to cut off the trees in and around Sham Kund so that the perfect rectangle shape can be maintained. But, dear devotees, that night, in the dream of Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, Yudhishthir Maharaj came. Yudhishthir Maharaj came in the dream of Srila Raghunath Das Goswami and said, my dear Das Goswami, I request you, I beseech you, please don't cut these trees. The 5 trees that you are planning to cut are none other than the 5 Pandavas. We are doing our bhajan on the banks of Sham Kund. Oh Das Goswami, it is my humble request. Please don't cut us. We always want to be in the association of Sham Sundar, Shri Krishna and Srimati Radharani. If you so desire, oh Das Goswami, please don't cut us. And the dream broke. And when Raghunath Das Goswami woke up, he understood that Yudhishthir Maharaj and all the 5 brothers were doing their bhajan on the banks of Sham Kund. And he decided to not cut those trees. Even today, dear devotees, for those who have been to Sham Kund, will agree to the fact they would have seen that the 5 trees are still present, who are none other than the 5 Pandavas whom Raghunath Das Goswami spared and did not cut. So if we see from the top view, Radha Kund is rectangular, but Sham Kund is never rectangular. It is oblong in shape. The shape is never proper. Why? Because of the 5 trees, 5 Pandavas who are doing their bhajan there. So in this way, dear devotee, Sripad Raghunath Das Goswami did the major excavation for Radha Kund and our Sham Kund. And to wrap up, there is a very beautiful point that Srila Jiva Goswami makes, dear devotees. And this is so interesting. We can remember this point for the rest of our life. And when I read it, I was so excited that I wanted to share it with the devotees. Srila Jiva Goswami, in his interpretation to the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So as we know, there are various interpretations to the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. And the most famous is what Srila Prabhupada has given us, that, O Srimati Radharani, O energy of the Lord, please engage me in your service. But we see Vishwanath Chakravarti, Baladev Vidyabhushan, Jiva Goswami, Veer Raghavacharya, and so many other acharyas of the past, they have given their interpretations in the holy name, and all of them are bona fide. So Jiva Goswami, in his interpretation to the holy name, he says, when this pastime of Krishna killing Arishtasur was taking place, dear devotees, please listen to this. This is very beautiful. Jiva Goswami says, when Krishna was killing Arishtasur, at that time, because Krishna is also called as Hare, so when Krishna was killing Arishtasur, at that time, Srimati Radharani from a distance, she called out, Hare, Hare. Because when we call out someone in a vocative case, like for example, Radha in vocative becomes Radhe. When we are calling out someone in vocative case in Sanskrit, it becomes Radhe. Similarly, Hari, when we are calling out in vocative case, it becomes Hare. So Jiva Goswami says, when Krishna was killing Aristhasur, Srimati Radharani called out loudly, Hare, oh Krishna, Hare. And he says, the Hare that we have, that is Hare, Krishna, 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 Hare. This Hare, that is the second last Hare in the first. Jiva Goswami says the second last Hare from the first line was the call of Srimati Radharani to Krishna when Krishna was killing Aristhasur. When Krishna was smashing Aristhasur to death, our Jiva Goswami says that Radharani called out Hare. And this Hare that we chant in the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, the second last Hare from the first line, that is Radharani calling out to Sri Krishna. And naturally, when Radharani called out, Krishna's mind was stolen, because Hari also means to steal, it also means to kidnap. So when Radharani called out this way, Krishna's mind was stolen. And Jiva Goswami says these are the two meanings of that Hare, which is the second last Hare from the first line. First meaning, Radharani called out to Sri Hari in the form of Hare, oh Krishna. And second, because Radharani stole the mind and the heart of Sri Krishna, or who is Hari, that Hari also becomes Hare. So that Hare that we chant has two meanings, dear devotees. And this is given by Srila Jiva Goswami in his commentary to the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So as I wrap up, this is something which we can always remember. The next time we pick up our beads and when we are chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, when we come to this Hare, we can remember that this was the call of Srimati Radharani. Radharani was anxious and she was concerned for Hari. And in concern, she said, oh Hare. And that Hare stole the mind of Sri Krishna. So as I wrap up, this is such a beautiful day that on Radhashtami, dear devotees, we bathe Srimati Radharani. And on Bahulashtami, Srimati Radharani bathes all our devotees through her waters. Having said this, I very humbly stop here. I once again thank all the devotees for staying in the call and want to once again extend my heartfelt gratitude to the organizers and leaders at Iskcon of Bergen County, and sincere thanks to His Grace Ram Tulsi Prabhu and Ramchandra Prabhu for very kindly inviting me. Shri Radha Kunda Bahulashtami ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanande, Hari 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 Bol. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for wonderfully connecting everything. Actually, we went to Krishna's pastime, connected to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu pastimes with the Goswamis. Then we really finally connected to Hare Krishna Mahamantra itself by help of Jiva Goswami. It was really amazing and thrilling experience hearing this this wonderful pastime in this way. Thank you so much for giving this wonderful time, Prabhu. And please, devotees, any questions you have, please you can put in the chat and you can raise your hands. Before that, I would like to make some few announcement. As like very important, like Ekadashi is coming. Ekadashi on what day we have? Let me see.
I think Wednesday, Prabhu, 11th, I think.
11th, Wednesday. Okay. And Wednesday, then also we have Wednesday Sangha. We have been doing of 10 offenses to holy name by Das Gadadhar Prabhu. And his wonderful speaker, disciple of His Holiness Radha Swami Maharaj. He has done 8 sessions on that. So the 9th session he'll be speaking on this. That will be at 8:30 p.m. Every Wednesday we have different sanghas. And Saturday is a very important day. That's a Diwali. And next Sunday we have a very wonderful speaker. His guest Mahatma Prabhu. He also will be speaking on a day of Govardhan Puja. And please, we request all the devotees to participate on these programs. And again, I would like to ask the devotees any questions. Please go ahead and ask. and utilize this wonderful opportunity to go deeper. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Can you hear me?
Yes, Mataji.
Thank you so much for the wonderful class, Prabhuji. I had a question. You mentioned that the people in Vrindavan, they don't really know that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and their love is, not covered by that fact that he is God. But I thought somewhere they do know it. They are not just in love with any ordinary person, right? So, I mean, is it true that they know or they don't know? What is the truth?
So Krishna in Vrindavan displays, our Acharya say, he displays two features. They're called as Mugdha and Sarvagya. Mugdha is when Krishna doesn't know he's God. Krishna himself doesn't know he's God. Like when he's eating dirt, when he's holding the tail of the calf and running, those features are when Krishna is Mugdha. Yogamaya has covered. But Krishna has another feature called as Sarvagya, when he knows he's Bhagavan, when he's killing the demons, or when he's performing some godly abilities. Our Acharyas say that is Sarvagya. But the mood of the Brajavasi is irrespective of whether Krishna is God or not. Even if he is God, doesn't matter. Even if he doesn't God, doesn't matter. They don't love Krishna. Their love for Krishna is not based on whether Krishna is God or not. So even if they know Krishna is God, doesn't matter. For example, our Acharya's comment, when Krishna showed the universal form, he showed the complete universe in his mouth. Mother Yashoda, for a minute, she thought, is my son God? He's showing the whole universe in his mouth. Is he God? But then immediately Krishna closed his mouth. And the veil of Yogamaya closed, and Mother Yashoda completely forgot whether Krishna is God or not. And the next moment, she held Krishna by her hand and took him inside. So many times Krishna has displayed activities which brings in a thought for the Brajavasis that, is Krishna God? Is he really God? But the next moment they start thinking, so what? Even if he is God, doesn't matter. God is our friend. That is the love of the Brajavasis. That God is our friend. But the mood of Arjuna is, friend is God. Are Bapre, Krishna is Bhagavan. But the Brajavasis, he is God, doesn't matter. He is not God, doesn't matter. We will still love him. Like they say, the Brajavasis very beautifully, they say, the love that Krishna is looking out for is Bhagavan se mat mango, Bhagavan ko mango. Krishna doesn't love when you go and ask things from him. Bhagavan se mat mango. When we want dhanam, janam, sundarim, car, this and that doesn't attract the Krishna's heart. But when we go to Krishna with ahaituki bhakti, when we just want bhakti, that is something that attracts the heart of Krishna. And Brajavasis are an epitome of that mood. They don't want anything from Krishna. If Krishna gives something, theek. If Krishna doesn't give anything, that is also fine. But their love for Krishna doesn't depend on whether Krishna is God or not. But sometimes when they see some godly activities, they have this feeling. But immediately, their love is so much that supersedes the thought that whether Krishna is God or not.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So devotee has a question in the chat. He's asking that is there a Golok pastimes going on about Aristasur and connected to Sadashiv? I don't know.
So the killing of demons take place in this world and not in Golok Vrindavan. Gopalam paripalayam brajapure bharam haram dvapare gauranga priyakirtane kaliyuge chaitanya namaha prabhu. The Narsingha Puran very beautifully describes why does Krishna appear in this world? Two reasons. Gopalam paripalayam brajapure, to take care of the cows and the residents of Vrindavan. And second, bharam haram dvapare, to reduce the bhar, to reduce the burden of Dwapar. So killing of demons is not present in Golok Vrindavan. Krishna never kills demons. So when he has to kill demons, when Krishna wants to exercise his muscles, Krishna comes down to this world, and those same associates who are there, they take form of different demons. But killing of demons is never activity in the spiritual world. That is why in the earlier we mentioned that Radha Kunda and Shyam Kund was formed by the tears, and it has no connection to Arishthasur's killing.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. And there is one other question that is very connected to maybe, but he says, asking like, just as Krishna became purified of killing a bull, can today's cow killers also get completely purified by taking bath in holy rivers?
Well, again, it depends on what the intention is. Definitely purification will be there. But as Shukadev Goswami in the 7th canto of the Bhagavatam, he makes this point that one should not be like a kunjara, manye kunjara shauchavat. One should not be like that elephant, because the quality of an elephant is he goes and takes a bath, then comes back to the sand, again pours the sand upon himself, and then again goes take a bath, and then again keeps on doing the same thing. So Srila Prabhupada, many times he would make this point that purification is there, provided we don't commit it again. If someone completely surrenders to Krishna, that my dear Lord, forgive me, I did not know what I was doing was wrong, but now I have taken shelter of your lotus feet. From now on, I will not do anything. I will associate with devotees. I will not take part in cow killing or any of those things. Then purification will be there. Then Krishna will protect. But if you are like elephant doing it again and again, then Krishna will not reciprocate. Then that is taking undue advantage of Krishna's mercy. But if you repent once and then don't do it again, then Krishna will protect. There is absolutely no doubt about it. There is a very famous video to this. I think many of the devotees would have watched in 1972, where one disciple of Prabhupada is asking Prabhupada that, dear Prabhupada, we have committed so many sins. Is it possible to atone them in one lifetime? And Prabhupada, he shoots back. Prabhupada's eyes widen and he shoots back. And he says, in one lifetime, 1 minute. Prabhupada says, 1 minute. Are you not reading Bhagavad Gita? Prabhupada very emphatically he makes this point. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mam Ekam Sharanam Braja Aham Tvam Sarva Papebhyo Moksha Ishyami Ma Sucha. Don't worry, Krishna is saying. So Prabhupada emphatically, he was literally roaring from the Vyasasana, and he was saying that if you have done sins in the past, but now if you surrender to Krishna, Krishna guarantees that Krishna will take care. So it's a question of 1 minute, not even one lifetime. And I think many devotees would have seen that famous video.
Yes, we did, Prabhu. Some devotees are requesting about the description you gave about this. Explain the German translation, and that's one more time. Yeah.
Yes. So I heard this from Gaur Gopal Prabhu in one of his, I think, TED talks. He made this point, and I found that was a very interesting point he made. Gaur Gopal Prabhu was making this point that swan is called as Hamsa, and as we know, every Devi Devata, they have their own vehicle carrier. Like Ganesh has a mouse, and similarly Shanmukh has his peacock, and so on and so forth. So he was making this point that Brahmaji's carrier is a swan, which is called as a Hamsa. And because Brahmaji was traveling with swan all the while in all the yugas, but now because of our inability, we are not able to see it. Well, he's still traveling, but because of our inability, our eyes are not able to see Brahmaji travel in that swan, which means it has become lost. It has become lupta. So lost in Sanskrit means lupta. So that swan which has become lost is called as lupta hansa, the lost swan of Brahmaji. But that in German, that has become Lufthansa. That lupta has become lufta, and Hamsa has become Hansa. So it becomes Lufthansa. And that is why you see Lufthansa is white in color, and it's a vehicle that's used for flying, exactly like what Brahmaji had. So the origin for that, he was saying, is from the Vedic text, Lupta Hansa, the lost vehicle carrier of Brahmaji, which over a period of time, the German way, has become Lufthansa.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Shraddha Mataji has a question. Shraddha Mataji, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you so much for this amazing class and giving us one more point through Lufthansa to remember Krishna. That's one more way of remembering him. So Prabhu, you just mentioned about two forms of Krishna, Mugdha and Sarvagya. And you mentioned that in Mugdha form, he does not remember that he is God, but in Sarvagya form, he does. And then when he's killing the demons, that's when he realizes that he is God. And we've heard that it is the Vasudev Krishna who kills the demons. The Nandanandan Krishna doesn't. So can we say that it is the Vasudev Krishna who is aware of his being a God? Can we
Absolutely.
translate it in that way?
Absolutely. Because in the 11th canto, it says, Vrindavanam parityajya padamekam na gacchati. In the pastime Uddhav Sandesh, Uddhav Geet in the 11th canto, Shukadev Goswami very beautifully makes this point. Vrindavanam parityajya padam ekam na gacchati. Krishna never keeps his feet outside of Vrindavan. So Jiva Goswami in his commentary, he says, when Krishna appeared, two Krishnas appeared. It was not one Krishna. Two Krishnas had appeared. One was Yashodanandan and one was Devaki Nandan. When Devaki Nandan or Vasudev Krishna was brought, two Krishnas merged together and they became one Krishna. But when the killing time comes, when killing of demons is there, it is the Mathura Krishna who does it. Our Vrindavan Krishna doesn't know to kill demons. He only knows to steal. He only knows to steal butter. He knows to lie. He knows to eat dirt. He knows to hide behind the pallu of Mother Yashoda. He gets scared when there is lightning. At night time, he needs bedtime stories. This is our Vrindavan Krishna. And this is the Krishna whom we worship, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says. Aradhyo Bhagavan Vrajesha Tanayas. We worship Vraja Isha Tanayas, the son of Nanda Maharaj in Vrindavan. But when the killing comes, that is when the Vishnu aspect or the Narayan aspect comes in Krishna and he kills the demons. So our Krishna doesn't know all these things. He knows only to lie, to do the rasa dance, to play in Govardhan, to play hide and seek. He knows all these things. So even killing Kamsa Maharaj was the Mathura Krishna who was doing it, not the Vrindavan Krishna. So it will be right to say that the Mugdha feature is the Vrindavan Krishna aspect, and the Sarvagya feature, when he knows his godly abilities, that is the Vasudev Krishna, the Mathura Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
One other question was on the
I
chat.
have a question.
Sorry, what happened to Aristasur like after the pastime? Like, what is the gati of him?
So all these demons, they have a Sayujya Mukti. All of them get Sayujya Mukti. They because they're eternally part and parcel of Krishna. They are associates of Krishna. So they come down only so that Krishna can stretch his arms. Krishna can do some wrestling. So they're associates of Krishna. And when they're killed, they get Sayujya Mukti. Now, what Sayujya Mukti is, that's a different topic of discussion. There are 5 types of Mukti, but Sayujya Mukti is when we enter into the Brahman effulgence. Like even Shishupal, we see during the Rajasuya Yagya, when his throat was cut, he got Sayujya Mukti. Similarly, Aghasur, in the pastime of Aghasur, Vishwanath Chakravarti comments by saying, even he got Sayujya Mukti. And likewise, all the demons, they get Sayujya Mukti because they come to Krishna not with the intention of performing bhakti. Their intention is killing. But nonetheless, Krishna is so merciful that he grants them some type of mukti. They again don't take repeated birth and death, but they get Sayujya Mukti.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Prabhakar Prabhu? Yeah,
Yes. My picture is not there, but I can speak without my picture. My mother tongue is Telugu, and Hansa also is the swan is Hansa. Maybe Sanskrit same word, right? Okay. One other thing is, when I was a student of engineering in India, I was taught by a German professor all years. So I have a dictionary with me that says that Luft means air, Okay, Lufthansa, So if you have a meaning like a lost Hansa, it won't be a good name for a German airlines, right? So that's what I'm wondering, that where this combination came like that.
Right. So in Vedic scriptures, everything that we have, there are multiple meanings to it.
Oh
Like
yeah,
for example,
even in Sanskrit will have multiple meanings. Sure. Yes.
right. So as you said, one meaning is lost, but another meaning is air. So air, and second is Hansa, which means swan, and swan is the order carrier of Brahmaji. So it has something to do with Brahmaji. If not the
Yeah.
lost order carrier, it has something to do with Brahmaji. So this is what I heard from Gaur Gopal Prabhu, and that's the reason I shared it. I don't know from where, what's the origin for it, was the script. I'm not sure if there is a scriptural reference, but it's a good side point when we're addressing newcomers, or when we're addressing those who are not devotees. And this is a good side point to add. But for sure, as you said, Hamsa means swan, and swan is the order carrier of Brahma. So it has definitely got something to do with Brahmaji. That is for sure.
yeah, right. And the Luftwaffe means airlines. Luftwaffe. Okay, that is a. See, Germans are well known to copy the Sanskrit, because they read the Sanskrit so well, because they want to know there is some a lot of secrets are hidden in the Sanskrit Vedas. So that's the reason why they concentrate learning
like for example, our Vedic scriptures are so prevalent everywhere. When Ramchandra, he shot his arrow at Marich. When Ramchandra shot his arrow at Marich, the power of Ramchandra's arrow was so much. It was almost like a thunderbolt for Marich. And it is said that Marich, because of the power of the arrow, he fell at a distant place. He fell very far away. And the place where he fell, the dynasty of Marich was called as Marichus. And that Marichus, over a period of time, has become Mauritius.
island.
So Mauritius has its origin from Ramchandra's hitting of arrow at Marich, and the dynasty of Marich are present there. So the point I'm making is, our scriptures, Ramayana has multiple examples this way, multiple examples that prove that Vedic literature has everything to do with the things that we see around.
Yes, I don't have doubt. Thank you so much for clarification.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. Asta has a question. Asta, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for the class. My question was, so like the gopis, as you said, that they don't really refer to Krishna as Bhagwan, and they more of have this bhav of theirs that is always maintained steady, regardless of knowing that Krishna is Bhagwan. So, if I'm not misconcepted, I've heard in the Krishna book that like Srila Prabhupada says that the gopis during, I think, the Ras Leela and many other instances. Can you hear me, Broji?
Yes, I can hear you.
Like in many other instances, they refer to Krishna as like, oh, Supreme Personality of Godhead, or like, oh, best dower of like all opulences, or some, in this way. So is that like a different representation of Bhav, or is that, like, can you clarify?
So the gopis of Vrindavan, this is a very deep subject matter. And I really want to express my inability. I am not so advanced to know the heart of the Braja Gopis. But definitely the mood of the Brajavasis that we have seen time and again in various scripture, the mood of the Brajavasis is, irrespective of whether Krishna is God or not. The point is, as I said, that Mother Yashoda, many times she has revelations that Krishna is God when she sees the whole universe in the mouth. Sometimes friends, they see Krishna lifting Giriraj Govardhan, or Krishna dancing on the slippery hoods of Kaliya. They sometimes think to themselves, is Krishna God? Is he really God? But even if he is God, who cares? He is my friend. So similarly, gopis, they may have revelations. Krishna is God or is not God. But irrespective of whether Krishna is God or not, their love doesn't change. That is a side point for them. Krishna may be God, may not be God. That's a side point. But for the Mathuravasis and Arjuna and the Dwarkavasis, that is the main point. For example, we find Rukmini in Dwaraka. Rukmini is never authoritative to Krishna. She's always submissive. But in Vrindavan, we see when Krishna becomes little authoritative, Radharani becomes more authoritative. Krishna can never control Radharani. He can control Chandravali. Chandravali is very submissive, like Rukmini. But for Radharani, he can never control. What to speak of Radharani? Krishna can not even control Lalita Sakhi. Lalita is so strong that many times when Krishna has to come and meet Srimati Radharani, Lalita says, hey, Radharani is busy, go. And Krishna leaves the Kunj. So Lalita is very powerful. So their love, irrespective of whether Krishna is God or not, their love is constant and it keeps increasing. But for the Mathuravasis and Dwarkavasis, the moment they know Krishna is God, it changes. It becomes diluted and they fall to the ground as Dasya. Now I want to give an example. Srila Sanatana Goswami in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, he gives a very fantastic example. And this will literally sum up the mood of the Mathuravasis, the Dwarkavasis, and the Brajavasis. And this is such a beautiful example. Every time we see that object, we will remember Krishna. Sanatana Goswami says, take into example, there is a water tank, small water tank. He says, what happens if you put 50 kgs of salt into the water tank? The water tank becomes salty completely, right? Now Sanatana Goswami says, take 50 kgs of salt and put it in the ocean. What happens? Nothing. There is no effect in the ocean. Is it because the ocean is already salty? No. Because the depth of the ocean is so much that irrespective of how much ever you put the salt, there is no difference. Shripad Sanatana Goswami says the love of the Mathuravasis is like that water tank. Krishna, when he shows little godly abilities, it is like putting that 50 kgs of salt. Immediately their love transforms. It changes like the water tank. But the love of the Brajavasis is like that ocean. It's as deep as the Pacific Ocean. How much ever Krishna shows godly abilities, which means how much ever you put 50 kg salt, 50 kg salt, 50 kg salt, it has no effect. No effect, because their love for Krishna is so deep that salts like godly abilities don't change their love. So Shripad Sanatana Goswami says this sums up the love of the Brajavasis, which is as deep as the ocean, and the love of the Mathuravasis and Dwarkavasis, which is like the water tank. So the next time we see a water tank or an ocean, we can remember what Sanatana Goswami has said and we can map it to Braj Leelas of the Lord. So the point I'm reiterating is the gopis, as Srila Prabhupada in Krishna book says, they would have revelations that Krishna is God. Like for example, in the Ras Leela, when Krishna disappeared, the gopis came and they saw Vishnu. And they saw the 400 Vishnu. And they came to Vishnu, they offered their obeisances and said, our obeisances to you, but can you tell me where Shyamsundar is? Can you tell me where Krishna is? And at that time, even Vishnu was thinking to himself, what is this? I am standing with Shankha Chakra Gada Padma and they're still asking for the two-handed flute playing Krishna. This is the love of the Brajagopis. God or not God, doesn't matter. Their love is as deep as the Pacific Ocean. When Krishna shows his godly abilities, it doesn't change their love. But in the case of Mathuravasis, little godly abilities, it transforms like the water tank. Does that answer the question?
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you so much. One devotee is asking that, like, Shishupal and Dantavakra, they were Jai Vijay. So they need to go back to Hare to Vaikuntha, not Sayuja Mukti, as you explained. Like, can you please explain on that matter?
Yeah, definitely. There are different ways of understanding this. Our acharyas, they say that Shishupal got Sayujya Mukti, but naturally, because they came from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because they were Jai Vijay and they were cursed for 3 lifetimes. And Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur even says that it didn't end in 3 lifetimes, but they got Sayujya Mukti, but they again came back. Now see the paradox. Jai and Vijay are there as Dwarpal. They come for 3 lifetimes. So ideally, they should be going back to Vaikuntha. But when they hear that Gauranga Mahaprabhu is appearing, their heart's desire increases. They start thinking to himself that everyone is taking part in Gauranga Mahaprabhu's pastimes. Why is it that we are not taking part? And they fall at the feet of Sachinandan Gauranga Mahaprabhu and say, my dear Lord, please give us some role. Any role is fine, but we want to be in your pastimes. And Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur says, that same Jai Vijay again came back as Jagai and Madhai. Jagai and Madhai, because they were so greedy for the pastimes of Gauranga Mahaprabhu that they besieged the Lord. And that is the reason, because in all three incarnations, they came as demons. And that is why in Kali also, they came like demons. Now, they did not kill, but they did all the abominable activities. But when they got associated with Nityananda Prabhu, who is Adi Guru, Preme Matta Nityananda Kripa Avatar, Uttama Adhama Kichu Nakare Vichar, Jai Age Pade Tara Kore Uddhar. Kaviraj Goswami says, who is Nitai? Preme Matta Nityananda. Nityananda Prabhu is intoxicated. He's mad. Uttama Adama Kichu Nakare Vichar. He doesn't see who's Uttam, who's Adham. Jai Age Pade Tara Kore Uddhar. Anyone who falls at the feet of Nitai, Nityananda Prabhu uplifts him. So Jagai and Madhai, they fell at the feet of Nityananda Prabhu. And Nityananda Prabhu, who is so merciful, blessed them. And when they got the blessings of Nitai and Gauranga, that same Jai and Vijay, who had again come down as Jagai and Madhai, not went to Vaikunta, but they went back home, back to God, to Golok Vrindavan. So they got a promotion. They came from Vaikunta, but after being in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes, they got a promotion and they went to Golok Vrindavan or Nitya Navadvip. So in that regard, Vrindavan Das Thakur says that eternally they went back home, back to Godhead, to Mahaprabhu's dancing party.
Thank you so much, Prabhu.